Well, I'm here in Copenhagen because we have an alternative conference that's actually giving the science. It's not giving the ideology. And any scientific policy that is being promoted about climate change has to be underpinned by science. We see in the past that temperatures have changed enormously. They've gone up and down and very, very quickly. We see in the past that in Greenland we actually had barley and wheat grown there, cattle and sheep in areas that are now covered by permafrost. Now, we didn't have great industry 1,000 years ago. There's something fundamentally wrong, and it is the science. And we've only just recently learned that the science has been slightly amended, it's been doctored, it's been changed, there's a little hint of fraud in there, and that was something that I suggested in the book on page 481, that it just wasn't right, it didn't add up.
Before coming here, we've seen that the ETS didn't pass. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I was out of the country when that happened. I think the Senate is doing its job, and the Senate is the House of Review, and the Senate has been established to review legislation. That legislation didn't pass, and I think that's showing that we have a very healthy democracy in Australia.
So I've seen at the opening of the Copenhagen conference that the head of the IPCC is saying that there's basically no doubt now about the theory of man-made global warming. What's your reaction to that?
Well, any religious fundamentalist talks about how there's no doubt in an omnipotent, omnipresent God. And this is the religion. You cannot afford to doubt, because then you get off the bandwagon. And this is a fabulous bandwagon. It's a gravy train that's providing huge amounts of fame and fortune for a great number of people. We are establishing the greatest financial scam that we can ever have on planet Earth. Of course, the head of the IPCC is not going to do himself out of a job.
And so, from your point of view, what's the best outcome that can be hoped for from Copenhagen?
The best outcome is to use that very, very rare commodity called common sense. Why is it that there are bankers and rent seekers and politicians and alarmists all getting together? And that's to skin us alive, to take more money from the average person who is already struggling. This money may well eventually get to the IPCC or the UN, and then it will go through a great set of sticky hands, and nothing will happen to global climate.
But in the past few weeks we've seen emissions targets from China, South Africa, these are India, developing countries. Why would they buy into all this if they don't believe that it's true?
Well, belief is a word of politics and religion. It's not a word of science. The second thing is, they can say what they want to. Let's see the action. You should ask me that question in 10 years' time. And in 10 years' time, they would not have made any great change, because why would they stop their countries developing and growing as we have? So these are the weasel words that we have in diplomacy. These are the weasel words we have in politics. The reality is, nothing will change.